and we try to come to a conclusion about the origin of everything, just like the modern theory now, there's a Big Bang, or some kind of soup, primordial soup, and by chance, conglomeration of atoms over a long period of time, millions and trillions of years, then life has come about by chance. This is the mindset of modern man. So in this way, with this mindset, we try to conquer the universe. We try to send rockets to the moon. We try to invent ways to prevent death. We try to invent ways to live more comfortably in this temporary body, which is actually hopeless. It's actually hopeless that we can overcome death. Everyone knows that death is certain. But still, because we have this inductive process, we're hoping against hope that we can live forever in this world. So therefore, the result is what we see about us. The reaction of nature, which we cannot solve. Like this COVID. Someone told me the other day, it's not COVID, it's no vidya. No vidya. No knowledge. Vidya in Sanskrit means knowledge. Vidya. And no vidya. No vid. That was supposed to be a joke, but I can't hear you laughing because you've got your mutes on. So this civilization is based on no transcendental knowledge, no knowledge of ourselves. We think that we've come about by matter, that our consciousness, our life, is an epiphenomena of the brain. And the brain has come about by millions of years of evolution, survival of the fittest, and man has come from monkeys. Monkeys have come from someone else, maybe marsupials, and then the insects have all evolved. Originally it came from some mutation of some chemicals, maybe by a shock of lightning, it formed some proteins, and by chance some amino acids, and then nucleic acids, and then life started. But what has this kind of knowledge done for the world? We're actually in chaos, actually. We're fighting on the basis of this body. I am American, I am Chinese, I am Russian, I am, I am Brahmin, I am Kshatriya, I am male, I am female, I'm African, I'm Indian, like this. So what is the alternative knowledge? When Prabhupada went to America, he didn't go alone. He came as a representative of a long line of persons who are giving another kind of knowledge. This is called deductive knowledge, or avaroha panta, knowledge which is descended from the time of the creation of the universe and beyond that also. So this is the alternative to this modern civilization which seems to be so destructive. I don't know about you, but I wouldn't like to go and take bath in the Naya River in Nairobi. Who knows what diseases we'd catch there? It's just over the side of the temple. Look out the window. But would you want to take bath in that? It's so polluted. And so many other pollutions also. Bad behavior. It's dangerous to go on the street in Nairobi at night, especially if you're a white man. So what's happened to our civilization? The thing is, it's based on no vidya. Not no vidya, not COVID. COVID is a temporary disease, but the real disease is no vidya, no knowledge. Bhagavad Gita says, Vidya Vinaya Sampane, Brahmanika Vihashini, Sunichaiva Svapakecha, Pandita Samadashana. One who is actually wise, who has knowledge, he sees that all living beings, whether they're black, white, trees, birds, fishes, they have their their bodies are covering of a living being, an eternal soul. This is a different kind of science. You can't see the science with your microscope. You can't see the soul with a microscope or a telescope. You can't pin it down. You can only hear about it from authority. Just like if I'm the standard example, if I don't know who my father is, I'm going to every man in the street. Excuse me, sir, are you my father? Excuse me, sir, are you my father? Excuse me, sir. It's a waste of time. Even if you meet your father, he may not know who you are. You see? So the only answer is to ask your mother. So the Vedic knowledge is there. There is an accumulation of knowledge, including the Bible. Prabhupada also said the Bible is, and the Quran also Vedic knowledge, because it's knowledge. Basically, it's knowledge of who we are, what is the purpose of life, what is this universe, coming from higher authority. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he's one of these higher authorities. He's our ancestor guru. So actually it's so important what Bhaktivinoda Thakur has accomplished for the modern day and age, because he was the forefather of ISKCON. He laid the foundation for ISKCON in the modern age. So many years ago, 500 and, 34 years ago, 24 years, Lord Chaitanya appeared to spread the Sankirtan movement. And he's described as a most merciful incarnation because he's giving an opportunity for people in this material world to awaken their love for God. Now, in this world, generally all over the world now, God is almost like from where I come, England, and from America and so on, God is a three-letter word. It's a dirty word. We don't believe in God so much because we don't know who he is. Just like, unless you can know who somebody is, you cannot love them. So this is a problem in the material world, is that we've forgotten our relationship with God. Therefore, we're trying to invent ways to be happy without God. But Bhaktivinoda Thakur introduced this Krishna consciousness as an alternative to material advancement. Actually, Bhaktivinoda Thakur was part of the British Empire. He was born in 1838, and in a very respectable Hindu family. They were Durga worshippers. He had a rich family, but the family was wiped out by cholera, which was a big plague in those days. But he took shelter of his relatives in Calcutta. He was very much educated in English language, English customs, and he was a well-known figure amongst the English intellectuals. Some of the Indians were trying to be like the Westerners and learn to be English. So he was like that. But still, because he was brought up as a Hindu, he's brought up in Hindu culture, he still was very interested in comparative religion. He was studying the Bible, studying the Quran. He was a very big intellectual. Eventually, he became to bring up his family, he joined the educational service in Orissa. But he was very interested in one thing. Who is this Lord Chaitanya? Because at that time, Lord Chaitanya's movement was in disrepute. It's called Sahajiyas. They would say that Lord Nityananda is Radharani, and the Nagar Gaurangis. So there's so many groups of Sahajiyas, and they weren't very well behaved. They would have illicit sex, they would take intoxication. So people were disgusted in Lord Chaitanya's movement. But still, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, his name was Kedarnath Dutt. He was interested. Who was this Chaitanya Mahaprabhu? And he was searching for one book, the Chaitanya Charitamrita. It was very rare. He searched Calcutta, he couldn't find one. He was working in a school in Orissa, and he saw on one teacher's, he was a teacher in the school, and he saw that the teacher had Vaishnav Tilak on his face, like we have, Gaudiya Vaishnav Tilak. So he said, what does this mean? He said, we're Gaudiya Vaishnavas. We believe in Lord Chaitanya. Oh, can you tell us, Kedarnath Dutt asked, can you tell us something about Lord Chaitanya? He said, yes, I have the book, Chaitanya Charitamrita. Ah, can I borrow the book? Yes. So then he began to study Lord Chaitanya. And he understood who Lord Chaitanya was, that he was incarnation of Krishna as a devotee. Radha Krishna Pranaya Vrikti Hladini Shakti Asmat. Katmanava people Viparadaya Vedam Katoto. Chaitakyam Prakatam Adrinam Tatvayam Chakyat Aptam. Radha Bhava Savalitam Nomi Krishna Swarupa. That Krishna or God is one, but in order to enjoy himself, he becomes two. He exhibits his Hladini Shakti, his pleasure potency. And then he becomes one again as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to distribute the mercy of devotional service, which we've forgotten. Prabhupada's Guru Maharaj was the son of Bhaktivinoda Thakur, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. And he used to say, the shortage of only one thing in this world, and that's, what is that? Krishna consciousness. What does Krishna consciousness mean? It means that spiritually we're part and parcel of God. Just like a spark is part of a fire, or the hand is part of the body. But we've forgotten our relationship. Therefore we're suffering. In Bengali, Krishna Boli Sajiv Anadya Bahimuk, Ataiva Maya Taradeya Samsara. We're condemned. We're like in a prison house of our own independent attitude. We created this temporary body to enjoy separately from Krishna. Bhagavad Gita says, Purusha Prakriti Stohe, Bhukte Prakriti Jangunan, Karanam Guna Sangasya Sadasa Yoni Janmas. So according to this descending knowledge, Avaroha Panta, we are eternal living beings. We've never been born, we'll never die, and we're rotating through many, many species of life. Sometimes we're born in African bodies, sometimes we're born in Gujarati bodies, sometimes we're born in American bodies, sometimes we're born in fishes' bodies, dogs' bodies. And you know what? I had a nice lecture by Prabhupada on the Chaitanya Charitamrita. Actually, these bodies are not growing. We think, according to Bhagavad Gita, that our bodies are changing. That's true. These words are very specific. It's not that we are growing. Even the scientists will tell you, at every moment, the cells are changing, the electrons are changing, the molecules are changing. So it's something like a film. You know, in the old-fashioned film, they have many pictures. The guy's moving like this. And when you play the film, then the body seems to move, right? So actually, we are the same, but the body is changing at every second, from childhood to youth to old age. So in a sense, this is a dress, but that's not such a good example, because you change your dress when the old dress gets old. That's also good, but every moment we're changing. So it's we that are constant, just like a dream. A dream is for only a few moments at night, and we forget our waking life. Oh, I am Mr. I am Mr. Mr. Who? I'm Mr. Patel. I'm Mr. John. I'm Mr. This. We forget our wife, we forget our children, we forget everything. And when we fall asleep, then we go into a dream world. And that world is on the mental platform. And so it's flickering every moment. The dream can change. So actually, this physical body is also flickering. Anytime we can die. Anytime, Kalosmi Lokashak, Krishna can destroy us at any moment with an earthquake, with a gunshot, with COVID-19. There's no guarantee. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur could see that there was a great need for this science of bhakti yoga, devotional service. But first of all, he had to establish its respectability. So he was writing many books, like Jaiva Dhamma, and many other books, many songs, just like Jai Radha Madhava. Udila Aruna Purava Bhage, Vijamani Gora Amani Jage. So many songs he wrote, over 200 songs. About the simple philosophy of Krishna consciousness. We're not this body, we're eternal soul. We're wasting our lives. Hari Hari, there's many songs where Bhaktivinoda, he regrets. I wasted my life just working hard for this temporary body. I was hearing Prabhupada saying, this civilization where everyone gets up at 6 o'clock in the morning, 7 o'clock in the morning, goes to work for their bread to get money, this is not human civilization. Human civilization means you get up early in the morning and you start chanting your rounds. Go to Mangal Arti, hear the Bhagavatam. This is human civilization. Not that we have to get up, drive half an hour, 1 hour, and then go to the office and get some paper money, which may become worthless overnight. You see, this is not human civilization, Prabhupada saying. How do you say it? Ahara nidram vaitaram cha pashabisa. This is the same as the animals, eating, sleeping, mating, and defending. Dharma is what makes us different from animals. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur is teaching this science of Krishna consciousness coming from Bhagavad Gita and from Lord Chaitanya. Lord Chaitanya is only teaching the same as Bhagavad Gita. Krishna says, Savadhamam Parityajya Mamakam Sharanam Vraja. And Lord Chaitanya is teaching the same thing. Jari Deki Taha Krishna Upadesh Amara Agya Gurahana Tayadesh. That you teach Bhagavad Gita to whoever you meet. And what's Bhagavad Gita? The instructions of Krishna, Savadhamam Parityajya. So this is the message. It's non-sectarian. Bhagavatam says, Kirata Hunandra Parinda Pokasa Abera Shamba Yavanaka Shadaya Yanyecha Papa Yada Pasraya Saya Shudyanti Tasme Prabha Vishnave Namaha. All these different races, black, white, green, yellow, blue, they can all be purified. Shudyanti Tasme Prabha Vishnave Namaha. By the power of God or his devotee. So Prabhupada is a representative of Bhaktivinoda Thakur. And after Bhaktivinoda Thakur, his son, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, he did what his father couldn't do. Bhaktivinoda Thakur was praying for his son who would be a ray of Vishnu, who could do what he couldn't do. Bhaktivinoda Thakur laid the foundation. Actually, he did many things. He discovered the birthplace of Lord Chaitanya. He started the Nam Hat movement from village to village, chanting the holy names. He wrote many books. He built the temple in Yoga Pith. He did so many things. But his son, he blessed his son, please become a ray of Vishnu. He prayed for his son that he could make an organization, an institution to spread Krishna consciousness all over the world. Because Lord Chaitanya predicted, Pritiviti Acha Yata Nagaradigram, Savatra Pracha Hoy Bimona. My name will be famous in every town and village of the world. That means Africa also. It means Africa. It means Kenya. It means Uganda. It means Rwanda. It means Tanzania. It means, Mozambique. It means, so many, Zimbabwe. So when will that day be mine? When all these people in the African continent will know Lord Chaitanya. Lord Chaitanya gave us this responsibility. Amara Agya Guru especially gave the responsibility to the Indian community. Bharata Bhumite Hoila Manusya Janmaja Janma Sartaka Karo Para Upaka. Because Prabhupada says this India is a blessed land of the world. Yeah. And of all the places in India, he said Bengal is most important. And of all the most important, excuse me, Gujaratis, but he said Bengal was the most important. And then out of Bengal, Nadia district. Out of Nadia district, Mayapur, the birthplace of Lord Chaitanya. So, yeah, there's a big responsibility, especially for Indian community, to fulfill the mission of Bhaktivinoda Thakur, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, to spread this movement. Prabhupada did a wonderful job. He took it seriously. That if I'm the only Indian who's doing this job, I'm going to do it. So he went to the West, and all he could find who were interested is a bunch of hippies. I was also a hippie. And, but I was looking for something beyond this materialism. Mostly people come, I've noticed people come from India, they come to East Africa to try and start their factory or get a good job, and exploiting the local people because they're very simple. So, but actually that's not the purpose of life. The purpose of life is different. The purpose is not to exploit anybody. The purpose of the Indian community, Prabhupada said, their duty is to give Krishna consciousness wherever they go. Maybe America, maybe Africa. Indian community are wonderful. I was brought up in London, in England, and because of the Indian community, our Krishna conscious movement has spread. And because they supported us like anything. And therefore, us English people have wonderful temples to go to. We have books, and we have devotees. So the same thing should happen in Africa. The Indian community's duty is to give this Krishna consciousness to local people. And this is Bhaktivinoda Thakur's mood, and Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati's mood, and Prabhupada's mood. This is not actually, of course it's Hindu, but philosophically it's Sanatana Dharma. It doesn't belong to any caste or creed or color. It's for everyone, even animals and the birds and fishes. If they hear this holy name, when Lord Chaitanya was traveling in Jharikanda forest, that was previously it was Bihar, now it's called Jharikanda. Even the elephants and the tigers and the deer were kissing. Can you imagine it? The tiger normally eats the deer, but because of the influence of the holy name, Harinama, Harinama, Harinama Eva Kevala, the tigers were kissing the deer, and the deer were kissing the tigers. And Lord Chaitanya could see that this Jharikanda forest was the same as Vrindavan. So this human society is not actually human society anymore, because we've forgotten our relationship with Krishna, and we're like wild animals, eating each other, fighting each other, bombing each other. Who knows what we're going to do next? So Lord Chaitanya's movement is the only hope for this material world. And this COVID-19 is giving us a chance to think, what is the purpose of ISKCON? Are we fulfilling the desire of Srila Prabhupada and Lord Chaitanya that his name will be heard in every town of the world? If not, we have to put our thinking caps on. How are we going to do it? How are we going to empower the people wherever we're living? I'm living in Bali now, because the Bali people, they have a tradition of Hinduism. So we're a small island here. We have about 7 or 8 centers of ISKCON with deities. But there's many countries which are not so fortunate. They don't have the culture. They have the Christian culture, and they're stuck in their Indian culture, Christian culture. So it's difficult to break through, but there must be a way. And as far as I can see, the best thing to please Bhaktivinoda Thakur is we have to empower the local people. Yeah, we have to train them up to be leaders of their own community. You may say, well, that's a difficult job, they're not qualified. But that's the only way we're going to do the job. Just like Prabhupada, he was an Indian. He came to England, came to America, came to England also, and he trained us hippies from Christian backgrounds, from Jewish backgrounds, how to be devotees by giving the message of Bhagavad Gita. So now your responsibility, especially the Indian community there in Nairobi, you have to have more of these training centers, Hare Krishna training centers. And not only that, you have to give them responsibility. A leader cannot become a leader unless you give him a chance to make mistakes. He learned by his mistakes also. So this is an investment for Lord Chaitanya's preaching movement. If somehow or other we can start training leaders, local African leaders in Kenya, to be leaders amongst their own community, because they know the language, they know the culture. We don't know. What do we know about African culture? But they can adapt the teachings of Lord Chaitanya according to time and circumstance. Desh Kala Patra. We can't do that because I'm a white man, I'm a Mzungu, and you're probably something else. So we have to train up the leaders to do this job. And this will please Bhaktivinoda Thakur very much. It will please Prabhupada. We get his blessings. And Bhakti Siddhanta also. Print the books. Everyone likes English. But still there's local people who would like to speak their local language and to print the books in so many languages. So there's a big job to do. So this will please Bhaktivinoda Thakur. Bhaktivinoda Thakur was the first author of Krishna consciousness to send the book, Sri Krishna, The Life and Times of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He sent to McGill University in English. So he published many, many books. Bhaktivinoda Thakur discovered the birthplace of Lord Chaitanya. He started his son to empower him to start a first institution of Krishna consciousness, the Gaudiya Math, and his disciple Prabhupada started ISKCON. So these are our forefathers, Bhaktivinoda Thakur. So on this day, I request you all, please pray to Bhaktivinoda Thakur to give his blessing so that you can empower the local African people and train the African people to spread Krishna consciousness amongst their own community in every town and village, in every place in Africa. So thank you very much. Excuse me if I said anything offensive. I didn't mean to. I'm just trying to give the spirit of Bhaktivinoda Thakur. His prediction was that one day in Mayapur, people of all nations would dance and sing together. But I've noticed that there's a lot of Chinese people, the South American people, but hardly any black races are there. Maybe 2%. So something is missing. So the job Bhaktivinoda Thakur, we have to rectify this. When will that day come when we see lots and lots of African people in Mayapur dancing and singing, going to the training programs so that they can go back to the African countries. I was so fortunate, you can't understand how fortunate I was. I was on the UK festival team, and we were going all over Africa. Sri Bhupanath started this festival team. We were doing programs. And one boy joined from Congo, Balnitai. He became my disciple. And he was totally convinced of Krishna consciousness. He read this book, Science of Self-Realization. He left college, he joined the festival team, and then he took me to Congo. I was a Mzungu. I wouldn't have dared to have gone to Congo on my own. I wouldn't have dreamed of it. But he took me by the hand, he looked after me, and he took me to different towns and cities, and we had programs. I was a Mzungu, and everybody loved him because he was so sincere. He was 100% convinced about Bhagavad Gita. And then we opened centers, and we opened a center in Kinshasa, and actually the Indian community helped us there. We got land, and it's wonderful. It's just one person could do so much. And one convinced devotee, Bhavanitai, unfortunately he's passed away. He got malaria too many times, and his liver packed in. But he was a great saint. So there are more saintly persons like that, if we encourage them in Africa. And they could do huge preaching. It's not that we have to do it. We have to support them, give them the Lakshmi, and let them open their own centers and help them from a distance. Don't interfere too much, because African people, they're wary of Indian community. But if we can just empower the local people to preach, they'll do our work for us, and we'll get the credit. Srila Prabhupada Ki, thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
So,
thank you, Maharaj.
Any time for questions? Time for questions.
Yes, Govinda Prabhu has a question, and he'll ask you,
Hey.
Maharaj.
Govinda Prem, close to Prabhupada.
Maharaj, thank you very nice for your inspirational class. I personally feel you're the real ambassador of Bhakti Vinod Thakur, traveling everywhere and giving this mercy as Bhakti Vinod Thakur had said and had also predicted. Maharaj, my one question, especially in preaching in Africa, yes, we want to empower the locals because this is the mood of also Srila Prabhupada. But sometimes I'm speaking personally for myself is that sometimes I lose patience. And sometimes also I might feel that the results are not coming as needed. So in the mood of Bhakti Vinod Thakur, what should I do?
Maharaj, you're on mute somehow. You're on mute. Okay. Something wrong.
I'm trying to turn.
Okay, Maharaj, yes.
Haribol. So it's a question of priorities. If you put your time and money into a training program, just like Samsung, a big company, they have a product and they have many agents all over the world, and they have training programs. This is the priority. So if you put your mind to the job of training, you won't be disappointed. You can convince people that they have a future in ISKCON. We have so many centers to open in ISKCON. We want to train you up to open a center in such and such place, such and such place, such and such place. And so we want to train you, and we'll give you support, but you have to preach to the local people. But then the training has to be good. Not that we, don't give them opportunity for leadership. Just like a leader has to be able to be given a chance to make mistakes. So we have to find those quality people, like you're doing a Hare Krishna training center. Then you have to give them a career. What is in it for me? If I get married, where will I live? How will I maintain? What will I do? Just like in South Africa, one success story I can tell you is Mahaprabhu and his wife in Soweto. They're a Grihastha couple. They're both devotees. And we've supported them, and they're preaching. We have Soweto Ratyas. So in Africa, quite frankly, brahmachari, sannyasi, no one's going to listen to them. Valnita had 6 children, and they respected him. So somehow or other, we have to set up local African grihastas with some facility for preaching. And they have to be sincere, so you have to find sincere people who want to preach, like Valnita, and they have to be trained. And it's not that, I'm saying that's an easy job, but if you make it a priority to do it, just like if you want to spread your company all over Kenya, you have to sit down and think how to do it. You have to train up some salesmen, and you have to put them as representatives in different cities and towns. And then you'll distribute your product. You have to be convinced of your product. Your product is Krishna consciousness. And you can't do the job of preaching like the local people can preach. So you have to, in order to fulfill the desire of Bhaktivinoda, you have to make representatives. Okay, some may blow it. Some may let you down, but out of some will be successful. And this way you'll go from strength to strength. When you learn how to train the local people for Krishna consciousness. What about the Christians? They came here, they didn't even know the language. So they learned the language and they wrote the Bible in the local language. And then some of them were eaten alive by cannibals. Believe it or not, the missionaries were killed, eaten by cannibals. But they didn't care because they were convinced that Jesus Christ was the Savior. And Christianity spread. So we have to be convinced that Lord Chaitanya is the Savior. Bhagavad Gita is the new Bible. And we can't try and understand, if we're British and we're Indian or whatever, how are we going to convince the local people? They'll be distrustful. They're racial. We're all racial. I love British people. Indian people love Indian people. And African people love African people. So we've got to get over this barrier by training and finding the right people, training them, giving them a career, telling we'll send you to this town, we'll give you, we'll pay the rent for a place, and you try preaching there. Give them some support, give them a chance. Don't just say, oh, they're hopeless. If Prabhupada had said we're hopeless, where would we be now? Actually, what happened, Prabhupada went to Butler, Pennsylvania, and he thought it was hopeless, just middle class, rich people, retired people. Then he went to Riverside, New York, with the yoga people. You can see they're just interested in health, yoga for health, and, But then he had the dropouts, the young people were hanging around the Lower East Side. So he thought, well, at least I have to give it a try. And so many of his disciples blooped. Do you think all of Prabhupada's 5,000 disciples are all here now? Maybe 300 in ISKCON altogether, 200. What happened to the other 5,000? Nothing is wasted. Neha Bikramanaso Sti Prachabhayana Vichate. So don't lose your patience. Just like if you go panning for gold, you have to be patient to go in the river and you pan for gold and you find a few specks of gold. So you're looking for Manushanam Sahasrechu Kaship Yatate Sidaye Yatatam Apisidanam Kaship Mam Vatitam. Out of thousands amongst men, some are interested in self-realization, and out of thousands of them, one may be ready to understand that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of God. So it's not an easy task. So don't give up. Get the mercy of Prabhupada. That's my idea. Please don't give up. Keep trying. Let's have more Hare Krishna training centers. And then from Hare Krishna training, we can have one in Kampala. We can have one in every city in East Africa, a Hare Krishna training center. The Indians can support it. And then from those, we can devise a way to train leaders who can go and preach. It may cost a bit of money, but it's worth it. Because if they succeed, we succeed. We get the credit. We try to make successes of this African preacher. We'll get the credit. You see, that's the thing. That's the way I see it. So please don't give up. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Praise the Prabhupada. Any more questions?
There's an anonymous question, and it says that, what about, we are emphasizing this preaching, but does it mean at the same time we push away the Indian devotees who are coming in?
No, you have to devise a way to do both. Like coming in doesn't mean all in the same building. And years ago, I wrote to Umapati, I said, if you want to use the same building, you better make a reception area for the Africans. If they see Jai and Vijay, they'll run away. So better, my idea is that you've got to empower local people to have their own centers. Otherwise, this racialism is a problem, big problem. This is a big problem. But Prabhupada did say, they are the proprietors, the African people. We should be preaching to them. So they are the majority. So we are, how do you say, expats, or we're newcomers in this country. So the temples are not really meant for us. We're already Hindus. We know all these things. We know Bhagavad Gita. But these poor people don't know nothing. Excuse my English. Don't know anything. They don't know we're not this body. And actually, most people don't know we're not this body. Even the Indians don't know they're not this body. So the ABC, we have to have training in ABC, even for the Indian community and even for every community. So I'm not saying kick out the Indians from the temple and fill it up with Africans. And that's a crude question you're asking. If that's what you think, that means you haven't understood Lord Chaitanya's mission. The idea of the Indian community in Africa is Amara Agya Guru Hanatayas, Bharata Bhumite, your duty, because you've come from India, the blessed land of India, land of Krishna, your duty is to preach to the locals. That's the purpose of this of our temples in Africa. So if we don't do it, we're failing. So my idea is that if you train up the local people properly, maybe have a separate ISKCON for local people, so that they can collect from the local people in the name of ISKCON. Let them collect money and run their own centers affiliated to ISKCON. This may be the best thing. And you can give them guidance, but let them stand on their own feet. Just like a child. If you want a child to learn, you have to let it fall over many times. So it can be affiliated to ISKCON, so that if it's a big scandal, ISKCON doesn't get the blame. You have to find a way to do it. If your heart is in it, if your heart is in to giving Krishna consciousness to African people, you'll find a way. Indian community are very intelligent. You're in Sattva Gun. Why can't you do this job? Why can't you think how to do it? Prabhupada thought how to do it. He figured out how to spread Krishna consciousness all over the world. So why Indians follow in Prabhupada's footsteps? Just to use intelligence, figure out a way how to spread Krishna consciousness to all the African people in Kenya and Uganda, everywhere, Rwanda. Figure it out. There must be a way to do it. Don't just give up. Say that these people are all thieves, or they're all this or all that. No. What were we hippies? We were a bunch of rascals. Prabhupada saved us with the holy name. We have the power of the holy name. We have the power of prasada. We have the power of Prabhupada's book. So that's for everyone. You can give everyone a chance. Okay, thank you very much. I said my say now. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur ki. Any other questions? Can you hear me? No.
Yes.
Okay, any other questions? I'm going on a rant now, I'm sorry. I should be talking about Bhaktivinoda Thakur. Bhaktivinoda Thakur was a very determined person. You know, he had a big job in the British government, and but he really wanted to find the birthplace of Lord Chaitanya. So he applied to the British government, please move me to Navadvip, Nadia district. I want a post as a magistrate there, because he was one of the top magistrates. In India, there was only one or two magistrates who were from the Indian community. It was all British, the British ruling. But they loved Bhaktivinoda Thakur. He made the judgment quickly. The local people loved him. And he even stopped a rebellion. So he said, listen, unless you move me to Navadvip Dham, I'm going to resign. I'm no longer going to be your magistrate. So he said, oh, all right. We'll move you. Because they wanted him. So then he started searching. And it wasn't an easy job because already the birthplace of Lord Chaitanya was discovered. It was in what they call Navadvip town, on one side of the Ganga. But somehow or other, Bhaktivinoda studied the Chaitanya Bhagavatam Chaitanya. He knew that the Chand Kazi's house, he could hear the kirtan from his house. So he realized that it couldn't be Navadvip because they knew where the Chand Kazi's house was. They couldn't hear the kirtan. So he realized that the Mayapur, the birthplace of Lord Chaitanya, must be on the other side of the river. So it was very, actually nobody liked him actually. He was unpopular. Because people were making money out of Lord Chaitanya's birthplace. They were getting donations. But he was determined, no, we'll find the real birthplace. So he studied the old maps of the East India Trading Company. And he actually found on one map, Mayapur. It was unbelievable. He found on one map, ancient map, like 200 or 300 years old, Mayapur. And then he realized it was true. And then one day he was sitting in his house and he was in trance. I mean, he's praying to Lord Chaitanya, please let me discover your birthplace. He's chanting Hare Krishna. And of course he's an associate of Krishna in Krishna Lila. He's not an ordinary person, an ever-liberated soul. He had a job to do. So he looked out over the fields at night and he saw this effulgence, this bright effulgence coming from somewhere where ISKCON is now, or beyond ISKCON is now. So he thought, oh, what is this place? Maybe that must be the place. So he took Jagannath Das Babaji. Actually, Jagannath Das Babaji was his Shiksha Guru. And he was the greatest Vaishnava on the planet at that time. He was very old, over 100 years old. And he was in a basket because his limbs were all loose and lame. He had to lift up his eyelids to see. He had to physically lift up his eyelids with his fingers before he could see. He's so old. So they carried Jagannath Das Babaji in a basket over the Jalangi, along the road. It wasn't a road then, it was just fields, rice fields. They came to this area where no rice was growing. It was like a dirty area. It's like some kind of mound was there, as though there'd been some old buildings years and years ago. Because the Ganga was always changing. The Ganga sometimes floods and then it changes its course. So this must have been many years ago, this mound. And the local farmers, the Muslim farmers, mostly Muslim there, they said, well, this is useless land. Whatever we plant there, whether it's, whether it's maize or whether it's whatever, it's useless. Only Tulsi comes up. Only Tulsi comes up on this land. It's useless. We don't want it. So, so when Jagannath Babaji saw this place, he jumped out of the basket. Nobody could believe it. He stood up. He started dancing. This man of 110 years old, starting dancing, jumping up and down. It's a miracle. And he said, this is the place. This is the place of Lord Chaitanya's birthplace. And when they started excavating for the construction, Bhaktivinoda Thakur retired, and he was collecting 1 rupee from all the people in Calcutta, because 1 rupee was worth quite a lot then. That was must have been worth like, half a dollar now, maybe 40 rupees now, maybe more, 50 rupees. So in this way he built that temple. When they built that temple, they discovered the deities of Jagannath Mishra underground, Adokshaja deity. And so that confirmed that's the actual place. So, and then Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he was very clever. He established a Mayapur Dham post office. Yeah. And then, then that was the whole thing Bhaktivinoda did. It was wonderful. Bhaktivinoda Thakur is the founder of this whole movement of Krishna consciousness. She's spreading all over the world. So thank you very much. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur ki.
Jai.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Close to Prabhupada.
Thank you very much, Maharaj. We have another class soon. There is okay, Maharaj went offline. So thank you everyone for attending, and we'll see you at 10:30 class.